The end of a lesson is not simply a signal that class is over. It is an opportunity to consolidate learning, strengthen confidence, inspire reflection, prepare students for what comes next. Intentional teachers understand that students often remember how a lesson ends more than how it begins. The essential question for today's reflection is, how can the final 5 minutes of every classroom become the most meaningful 5 minutes of the day? You see, think back to your favorite movie. Imagine if just before the ending, the screen suddenly went black. No conclusion, no resolution, no final message. It would feel unfinished, yet that's exactly how many lessons end today. The bell rings, students pack their bags, teachers remind them about homework. Everyone rushes to the door or to the next class. That's it. But intentional teachers understand something powerful. Learning deserves a meaningful earning. Because the final 5 minutes are often the moments students carry with them forever. Those moments determine what they remember, what they value, and how they feel as they leave your classroom that day. The lesson may be ending, but learning is just beginning. So today's reflection is going to be exploring how intentional teachers transform the last 5 minutes of their classrooms into one of the most influential moments of the entire lesson. Let's look at why endings matters. Psychologists have long observed something called recency effect, which means people often remember the last part of an experience more clearly than the middle. Think about your own life. The last conversation before leaving home, the final words at graduation, the closing scene of a great movie. Ending stays with us. The same is true in education. Students may forget several activities from today's lesson, but they will recall how they felt when they walked out of your classroom. Did they leave feeling confused, defeated, or inspired? Intentional teachers know that every dismissal is also an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to reinforce learning, celebrate growth, leave students believing tomorrow's lesson matters even more. Students don't simply leave your classroom, they carry your words with them into the hallway, into the bus, and sometimes into their future. So I invite you to ask yourself, if my students remembered one final 60 seconds of today's lesson, would they leave encouraged or simply dismissed? Many classrooms today are filled with activities, worksheets, discussions, projects, presentations. But activities alone don't guarantee learning. Reflection does. Reflection helps students organize what they've experienced. It allows them to ask, what did I discover today? What challenged me the most in this class? What questions do I still have? Without reflections, learning often remains incomplete. Intentional teachers create space for students to pause before moving on, because growth requires thinking about thinking. As a veteran educator, my signature phrase to end every class or every lesson is a simple question. What is one idea you learned today that you still remember tomorrow? At first, students offered brief responses. Weeks later, their reflections became deeper, more thoughtful, more personal. The lessons hadn't changed, but the reflections transformed how students process their learning. They knew they expected this question. Sometimes the most powerful learning happens after the lesson is over. Here are 5 powerful closing routines every teacher can use. Number 1, the 1-minute reflection. Ask students, what is one thing you learned today? Simple, focused, powerful. Number 2, celebrate progress. Instead of ending with unfinished work, celebrate growth. Say things like, today I noticed many of you took intellectual risk. I'm proud of how you supported one another. Students remember encouragement. They will take it positively. Number 3, connect your learning with tomorrow's learning. Create anticipation. Tomorrow we're going to build on today's discovery. Learning feels meaningful when students see the bigger picture. Number 4, invite questions. Ask questions like, what is one question you're leaving with today? Curiosity should continue after the bell rings. Number 5, end with encouragement. Before students leave, remind them, I'm proud of your effort. Keep believing in yourself. Tomorrow is another day or another opportunity to grow. Don't give up. Students need encouragement more than they need another reminder, especially when you remind them about their homework. They don't like that. Students may never forget every slide you presented, but they'll remember how they felt walking out of your classroom. Take note of that. There are teachers whose final words each day become part of who we are. As a teacher, I always smile and say to my students, remember you are capable of more than you realize. Most of the time, it seems like a simple routine, but I've noticed that years later, those echo in their minds, not because they were dramatic, but because they were consistent. That's the influence of intentional teaching. The final words spoken before students leave may become the words they carry into tomorrow. Speak peace, speak love. Imagine one of your students years from now. They may not remember every lesson, but they may remember the encouragement you gave before they walked out of their classroom. What message do you want every student to carry home today? For this week's Teacher's Challenge, I invite you to protect the final 5 minutes of every lesson you teach. Do this. Instead of rushing to finish content, choose one intentional closing routine. Reflect, celebrate, encourage, inspire. Notice how it changes your classroom culture. So, to close today's reflection, we are reminded that great teachers understand that teaching isn't measured. It's not measured only by what students complete. It's measured by what students carry with them. Every lesson has an ending, but intentional teachers make sure every ending becomes a new beginning. A beginning of curiosity, a beginning of confidence, a beginning of hope, because the last 5 minutes are never just the end of today's lesson. They are the beginning of tomorrow's learning. So, my dear teachers, if today's reflections encouraged you, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Edu Life School, The Intentional Teacher. Each week, we explore practical strategies and inspiring conversations that help educators create classrooms where students flourish, not only academically, but emotionally and personally. The teacher's question for you: how do you intentionally end lessons? Share one closing routine that has made lasting impact on your student. Your idea may inspire educators around the world. Remember, every lesson deserves meaningful learning. Every student deserves words of encouragement. Every classroom deserves moments of reflection, because the last 5 minutes are often the first moment every student remembers. Teach lessons that end with hope. End every class with purpose. Teach with intention. Lead with purpose. Inspire for life. Thanks for listening.